Hi, this is Tim, and in this episode we're going to see whether it's possible to take some really good shots of garden birds without expensive cameras and long lenses. Let's see how we get on. There is a particular area that I want to photograph birds in the garden, and I find the best way to do that is to actually get birds used to coming and finding food in the garden. So I'm going to attach this little plastic pot. This is actually a pot that some business cards came in. As you can see, I've drilled some holes in the bottom. I've drilled 4 holes, one in each corner for drainage really, just so the pot doesn't fill up with water if it starts to rain. And there is also a hole just here where I'm going to fix the pot using a screw and a washer onto this little block of wood that I'm going to mount on the back of one of my pieces of fence in the garden. There is a particular part where I'd like to photograph the birds, and I think if you can get the birds used to coming in the garden for food and you can get them used to being near a camera, then you're part of the way there to getting some really good photos. So I'm going to go and get this fixed up in the garden, and I will show you where it's going and how it's going to look. Well, the pot is actually now mounted on the back of the fence. You can't actually see it from here. I'm going to take you along in a moment and show you whereabouts it's mounted, but it's on the back of one of these sections of the fence, and the aim is that I'm going to hope to get the bird perched on directly on top of the fence when I take the images. So let me show you where it is. Okay, so I thought I would just run through the equipment that I've been using for this shoot. Again, as I've said before, it's nothing really flash or fancy. The camera itself is a Panasonic Lumix FZ200. It's a camera I did a little video on a while back. I bought it off of eBay for around £100. Just had a look on eBay, they're still going for that sort of money or a little bit under. The good thing with this particular camera is it's got quite a good focal range, and it's all at f2.8 as well, so you can get that lovely shallow depth of field, that lovely blurry background when you're taking photos of birds. I'm also using this little Manfrotto tripod. This was actually a present, I think a Christmas present at one point, so I don't know how much it was, but I don't think they're hugely expensive. Any small cheap tripod will do. I mean, we're only holding a basic camera, we've not got big lenses on, so it doesn't need to be a massive, great big thing, providing it can hold the camera steady. You could even use a beanbag. If you've got somewhere you can mount a beanbag, I mean, they're perfectly good. I'm going to actually use this beanbag, I think, to do some shots on the floor of birds feeding on the floor as well. So keep your eye open for those. Hopefully we should be able to get some decent floor shots. And then finally, a wireless trigger. Again, just a cheap one. This I think was under 20 quid. You order it specifically for the camera that you're using, so this fits the Panasonic, and it allows me to remotely operate the shutter. It's got quite a good distance on it. I don't know exactly the length of it, but I know that you can be quite a serious distance away from the camera. If you have a DSLR, you could always get another cheap lens off of eBay or similar, something, you know, if you've got a Canon or a Nikon, then something like a 70 to 210 or a 75 to 300 millimeter lens, either branded ones or Sigma or Tamron. They all go for fairly cheap prices, and you will get similar sort of images to what I'm shooting with this particular setup. But there we go, nothing flash. You know, like I say, camera under 100 quid, cheap tripod or a beanbag, and a cheap wireless remote. That's all we need to get some decent photos. but that's the kit I'm using for this particular shoot. So I've been putting mealworms in the pot for a couple of days now, and the birds are coming quite regularly to that particular part of the fence where I wanted to photograph. And as you can see, I've got a little tiny Manfrotto tripod set up here just in the doorway of the conservatory. There's nothing flash here, there's no real expensive gear. I'm using my second-hand Panasonic FZ200, which I think I paid around £100 for. I've got a very cheap wireless remote trigger on the top. I've focused in on the top of that piece of fence. I don't know whether you can see it on the video, but as luck would have it, there's a tiny little hair or something on the top of the fence post, and that's allowed me to get really nice and sharp with the focus. And as a result, I've been able to get a really good focus on that and then lock it off onto manual, so it's not going to alter at all. Also within the shot, now bearing in mind I think I'm shooting at around about f3.5 or f4, so it's given us a nice blurry background, but also the leaves over the past few days have come out on the purple birch tree that I've got. I've got a little tiny purple birch tree in the garden, so it's given me that lovely blurry red background that you can see there as well. So everything's set up. I've checked there's mealworms in the pot. Also, I don't know whether you can see down the garden, just about here, that little black speck is actually my other iPhone. I kept my old iPhone when I upgraded, and I just use that every now and then as a camera basically. So I've also put some mealworms on the floor down there, which again I've been doing for the past couple of days, and I'm capturing a little bit of video of birds feeding on the floor on mealworms, and they're quite used to it, and they're not at all upset by the iPhone being there. So I've already had blackbirds down there. You can just see actually a little sparrow's landed in front. I'm hoping to get the robin. We've actually got a pair of robins in the garden at the moment, but I haven't seen them for a few days. So hoping to get the robin. And yeah, I'm all set up now to take some pictures here. So what I will do is I'm going to go and make myself a cup of coffee. I'll probably pull down this blind here. The other blinds I've got tilted so I can see out, but they can't see me very well. And I think I'll sit on the sofa with the girls and a cup of coffee. They're already in place now. And a cup of coffee, and hopefully fire off a few shots. I think we're only going to get sparrows at the moment. I've only seen sparrows coming from the mealworms. I've got a hen sparrow that's coming quite frequently because she's actually nesting under the eaves at next door's house. But you don't see many really good photos of sparrows. People tend to overlook them a bit, so hopefully we get something nice there. But I'm going to go and get a coffee and we'll see what happens in a moment. Well, thanks ever so much for watching the video. I think just a few things to remember, really. If you can get the birds used to coming in the garden for food, and if you can get them used to seeing equipment around, so cameras and tripods, that sort of thing, then I think you're really in with a good chance. The more they're used to it, the more comfortable they'll be, and the closer you can get for better photos. I still haven't seen the robin. I'm not sure where the robin is. I haven't seen him for a few days. But I'm going to continue with this project, so keep your eye on the Instagram feed. So that's Cheapshot podcast. Also my own personal Instagram feed. I do post some photos up on there, and that's Tim J Bell. So if you look at both of those feeds, I'm sure you'll see more bird photos in the future. But have fun, enjoy, and you can get some really good shots without spending huge money on gear. So get out there and enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Cheers, guys. See you now. Bye-bye.